Resident Evil 5.
Hello there, Sir from 17 once again. This is my Resident Evil 5 video walkthrough. It's on Professional, and we're on Chapter 3.1. It's called the Marshlands. This is the first difficulty spike in the game, I think. And it's for a very specific reason. The Mangini's, as I like to call them, are going to be upgraded in this area, and this is the area of the game that people are going to probably point out as the racist part, because we're going to be going in to this rural part of Africa, it's like Everglade marshland thing, and we're going to be killing tribal African people. And I'm not even going to get into it, because as I've already mentioned, we've been shooting white zombies for an eternity and no fucker cared then, but immediately when you go into a place like this and you start shooting different ones, apparently it's a bad thing, and they're monsters. Does it matter what the skin colour is? You know, this is not some kind of subliminal message to breed hatred and xenophobia, it's a fucking video game, so I don't get this need for always to be offended and looking to be offended over nothing. It's a game, guys. It's not Hatred the game, where you're meant to go out and be a dickhead and do nasty things. It's just a game. But these particular Manginis, these African tribal guys, are the most tough Manginis in the game. They are incredibly resilient, incredibly fast, and incredibly dangerous. They have like every benefit you could possibly want. So if anything, they're better than the white zombies, which is that not a good thing? Like, that's not denigrating them in any way, or turning them into something they're not, or somehow, you know, mocking their people. It's saying that they're better than the white dudes, which I think is a cool thing. And they've all got that weird, like, ribcage, Shadow Man heart thing going on. And I think it's a really cool aesthetic, and I just so happen to like killing them, because they're dangerous, so killing them is really satisfying. And you'll notice, we didn't kill them, because they're very dangerous, so instead we'll just skip that shit. But you might be thinking, well, why are they different from anything else? Why are they different from Chinese tourist and random Saddam? Well, it's simple. They come with weapons. Their weapons have incredible range and speed and do massive damage. They're difficult to interrupt. They seem to be a little bit more resilient on the defenses. They seem to be a little stronger, and they're very intimidating because they come in big numbers. They have ones that have masks on that give them armor, so you have to destroy the masks before you can hit the face. And they also come with shield variants, and if you remember in Resident Evil 4, the shield variant was very specific but very fair, whereas in this game, I don't think they're very fair at all. I think they're kind of dickish. They have the same weaknesses as a lot of the ones in 4 did, but they also have strengths that are the weaknesses of Resident Evil 5. Primarily, the shotgun is not good enough at interrupting certain animations and stopping certain attacks. So there will be instances where you shoot into their shield, whereas in Resi 4 it would always stop them and always interrupt them, whereas on this game it sometimes doesn't. And it all depends on circumstance. It is quite rare, but it does happen, and it's got me injured more times than I care to count. Additionally, in Resident Evil 4, when the guys with the shield got up to you, they would normally do like a flail attack, wouldn't they, where there was a hesitation, a telegraph, and then a swing, which was easy to dodge. So if they did get close, you could back up and you were safe. You could just dodge it like you dodged all the moves in that game, because it was balanced and fair. In this game, they just fucking bunt you with the shield and boom, you crit instantly. Or they'll do a poke with a spear that has forward momentum, is insanely fast, and is really difficult to interrupt. So you have all the benefits in the world and none of the negatives. So they're incredibly powerful, and the best way to deal with them is to shoot them with a high-powered rifle in the part where their face is, so that you can get rid of them before they get anywhere near you. And later on in the game, they're going to introduce shield enemies with bulletproof shields. Metal shields that are incredibly tricky to get through unless you're using, I think, a piercing weapon, or unless you can hit an exposed body part, or if you can use something like a flash grenade or something. So, to say that these enemies get an upgrade moving on to this chapter is an understatement. Does that mean that it makes it all that more difficult? Not really, because the same strategies are going to apply here. The only difference is, whenever we're faced with large numbers, we're going to avoid the conflict entirely. And you might think to yourself, well, isn't that kind of cowardly? 100% yes, but sometimes, you know, prudence is the way to surviving these games and making sure you've got the most ammunition for the next encounter. In an encounter where you do not have to stay, why would you bother wasting ammunition on enemies that take far too much damage to die? To me, it's just not, it doesn't make enough sense. You have to be frugal. And these crocodiles, or alligators, I'm not too sure which two they are. I think they're crocodiles. They will instantly kill you if you let them do their bite attack on you. And for the most, I've never had problems with those crocodiles, except for one farming day on this game, specifically, where every single time the one who's blocking that entrance caught me for some reason. He had super Dyson vacuum range, and I couldn't get out of it. But pick up the treasures. You don't have to if you don't want to. It's a fun distraction. And just be careful here, because the enemies can drop down and grab you. I never had a problem here on anything but professional, but of course on professional the enemies are very aggressive. Just be careful. But you see just then, he grabbed me from behind, I knocked him off, and then everybody stood around, didn't they? There was an unvoiced agreement to let me go. Did you see that? That is what I would refer to as the grace period, and it's something you'll notice on Mercenaries, and it's something you'll notice during the game. At the beginning, on that public assembly, massive survival moment, we did not get that. We got absolutely just RNG dicked, because the two people that hit us after that first grab were doing running attacks, which is an attack that they can trigger at a distance, and it's an attack that doesn't stop until they do it. So they didn't care that we were coming out of an animation where we were vulnerable, and that's why it happened. Everybody else didn't do anything, because they gave us that grace period, but they cancelled that grace period by already being in an attack, and that's why it worked the way it worked, and that's why it's so baffling. And there's so many instances of this happening in this game where things line up almost perfectly, and it's one of those, difficult game attributes. Like, God Hand's great for that. On hard, on God Hand, you'll have moments where things line up so perfectly for the bad guys that it's almost like it was written to work that way. Like, you'll try and do a knockback kick, and somebody will interrupt you perfectly, and then just as you've been interrupted for that split second before you can recover, you get grabbed. Like, shit like that happens all the time. But that's the final part of the puzzle. It's now running the gauntlet to get off this island without being touched, and these shield guys and the spear guys, they attack so fast, they have great tracking, they're a nightmare. I got hit here about twice getting out of this, and luckily enough this time we managed to get through without incident. And Sheva was beautiful here. I have to give her full props. She didn't get hit, she didn't lag behind, she was perfect. She was really, really good. And then we get back on the boat, and we can get to the doorway and end the mission. Which is not true at all, because there's a massive fight coming up and there's an extra 10 minutes on this video. So you might be wondering why Sheva still has a pistol. Because if you don't know, the downside of Sheva having a pistol is she can interrupt things you're doing. There's a very good reason why good mercenary players do not stick together, because you affect each other's playstyle, and it can get you fucked. How many times have you played with somebody on Mercenaries where you've stunned somebody, got a melee prompt, ran in to do a melee attack, and they've shot them, they've recovered out the melee attack, and you've got grabbed? Happens all the time. And it's because things get confusing when there's two people initiating it, and it can work, but it has to have ultimate communication, and the person that you're playing with has to know when he sees that animation for the melee prompt that he's not going to mess with it, because if he does, it completely ruins the flow. And not everybody knows that, not everybody wants to play Resident Evil 5 at a higher level, not everybody wants to have that experience. Some people are just coming to this game for fun, to play with their buddies, and they just want to run around with a hand cannon with infinite ammo in, they're not interested in the nuance or the dynamics, they just want results. And fair play to them, but it gets you fucked. And Sheva does the same thing with the pistol. She doesn't do it too much. She's indeed, quite frugal when it comes to how she does it, but the one time you need her not to, she probably will. But on this mission so far, I've showed you where to get all the plates for the story, I've showed you where to get some optional treasures, and I've showed you where to get a rocket launcher. That rocket launcher on the boat will be there every time you play this level. If you need a rocket launcher, replay this level. It's free. It takes about 40 seconds. It's insanely powerful. Kind of broken, actually, because you can do it at any point you're struggling. And here's us popping in all the plates, and then we get the checkpoint. There's some nice upskirt there on Fairy Tale Sheva, and then we're going to be moving into a very difficult fight. So if my rifle was more upgraded than it is, this would be easy, because I'd be able to one-shot the standard Manginis with body shots, and then I could use superior aiming to kill everybody but the big dudes, and then the big dude we would wait for him to get close, and then we would simply hit him with a shotgun or something, and then chain melee attacks, because it's the best way to kill them. Saves ammunition, keeps them in a stun, ding dang do. However, I don't have that damage, and headshotting enemies that are moving and jumping and doing that little automatic duck that they do, that they've inherited from the Locusts in Gears of War, is kind of tricky. So, the spawn point here is the same every time. If you move towards the area you're supposed to go, as you hit this area here, it'll trigger music and spawn. There it was. To my right, do you see the big guy dropping down? He drops down there every single time. There he is, see him? I'm going to run all the way back to where we came in. Right then I could hear some weird noises and it made me think that Sheva was fighting, so I turned around, but I don't know what's making that noise. There are two of these heavy guys. This dude, when he roars and he proceeds to run forward and hit you with his big stick, there is not a single thing on this earth that can stop him, except for maybe the rocket launcher, which I just used there to get rid of both of them at the same time. I believe in this section that the little dudes will spawn at a set rate of a bunch of guys, as long as those two big fellas are alive. If you kill the two big fellas, I don't think they get any kind of reinforcements. So, the best thing to do in my opinion is kill the big guys first. Oh, here we go, it begins. How the fuck did she get hit? There's two people, Sheva. You ran through a crowd of spearmen and you didn't get touched. Why? Why would you do this to me? There she goes. There's me cock-blocking her when she got the knee shot, so... And then the music stops telling us that they ended. All we killed them was 4 people. You can see that fight happen where you can kill way more than 4 people, so I think, as long as you kill the big guys, the spawning stops. That was pretty clean, minus Sheva being an idiot. But back to the big fella. The shout and then the running slam attack is one of the reasons that I really dislike Resident Evil 5's systems in a lot of ways. Because I don't think anything should exist that doesn't give you either a prompt to dodge or a means to interrupt it. And I would personally take the means to interrupt it every time. When he does that move, as he's swinging his weapon, I think you should be able to hit him with anything. Doesn't matter what it is, it could be the knife for all I care, and it should stop him. And it should count as a counter hit. But it should only be as his weapon moves from a neutral state up to the sky towards coming down to hit you. So from that apex, coming down from the zenith, coming down, any part of that, you're fine. Do it before that, you get nothing. Because you don't time it correctly, you should be able to stop it. But you just can't do that, unless you're packing some kind of ridiculously powerful weapon, like maybe the Hydra. If you can squeeze off 2 quick shots, maybe it stops him. But for everything else, he will go through it like a truck. And then you take massive damage, because the game is cheating, effectively, because it's giving him hyper armor. And I don't like it. I don't like it when bosses do it, let alone special enemies like that, little sub-boss guys. Because it doesn't feel like there's much to do. And don't get me wrong, when you see him do the shout, you can dodge it. You can definitely dodge it, but I want to stop it. I want to punish it rather than dodge it. And it'd be cool if there was something that enabled you to do that. Like, imagine if, as it gets close to your character, there was a prompt to press A and X. And when you do that, Chris kind of ducks under and shoves his knife up its jaw, like under its chin, and instantly kills it. But it's a very quick time event, and you have to be super on the ball to nail it. But there it is, there's your reward for doing it. You know, anything's better than just, I am now completely uninterruptible, and you have to deal. Because there's nothing you can do, ha ha ha, eat my dick. Like, it just, it feels too much like a win button. Like, it must be what the enemies feel like when I pull out the rocket launcher. They just go, oh, he's using a rocket launcher, well, fuck this, I'm gonna get turned into chicken curry. There's the knife being great. Oh, by the way, the unofficial drinking game for this walkthrough, every time I go to knife anything that is more than one item and I swipe and I should get everything and I don't, take a shot. It's happened a million times so far, so be very careful and try not to get blood poisoning. Oh, by the way, guys, do not release this unless Sheva is through the door. It doesn't matter that there's a ledge on the side that's got grass on it and it's a cliff face next to the doorway that's technically not on the spiky bridge, because she falls anyway. If you let go now, even though she's not on the bridge anymore, she'll teleport to the middle and she'll die. I've done it twice recently. It's very annoying. You'll notice I'm holding it even when she's past it. That's how paranoid I am at this point. Almost looked like an image then, didn't it? Except for the brazier that was burning. But she comes to open the door, a little bit slower than I'd like. And then we can push onwards towards the execution grounds. but there's a lot of farming to do, and I believe there's a snake down here, so it's going to fuck us up. In these pots are snake. Oh no, I know. Yeah, there you go, I shot it. Both of these have snakes in them. I'm going to shoot them because the knife is unreliable. If you don't know, in this remaster, they fucked the hitbox on the knife. I have no idea why anybody thought they had to touch it, but they did. The knife is such a useful tool in very specific moments, and it sucks. It sucks insanely. Like, it's not a good weapon. There's no planet where you can convince me the knife is a good weapon. It is a weapon you use in very set circumstances and when there is nothing else left to you. So why would they change it? Why would they do anything to it? You know, especially a hurt box and hitbox augment. It doesn't make sense. Why would they amend something that worked perfectly in the last version of the game? Like, it is completely different to the way the knife works in the original version of Resident Evil 5, and it doesn't make sense. There's a strategy that me and Aiden use on Professional, on Fresh Game Professional, on that public assembly section where you have to defend. We go to the back room of that place you start in, and we stand on the angle of the door so that I'm on the left door jamb and he's on the right door jamb, and we're kind of at an angle to the door, so we're knifing, and our knife swipes are covering the entirety of the door's frame, and it's also kind of clipping through it a little bit so it can preemptively hit people as they get to the door. Because we're stood on an angle, the enemies don't generally initiate an attack because they're not directly on us, so as they come to try and come through the door, we just keep hitting them with the knife and it stuns them. That's how we did Professional the first time, before he busts the door down and then we went up on that ladder into that area where it's safe. On this version of the game, it doesn't work. Because the detection on the knife is just not good enough. You will get hit all the time, and it never happened before. So that awesome strategy that we end up coming up with on the fly back in 2009 is completely invalidated because of a terrible design choice. Thank you for watching. You take care now.